There comes a point when words stop being mere commentary and start becoming weapons. That moment has arrived. Tina Brown, a figure of influence in media, has taken it upon herself to invent statements and attribute them to a highly respected deceased woman, falsely claiming they came from Prince Harry. Let that sink in. Not only are these words fabricated, but they are placed into the mouth of someone who cannot defend herself, someone whose legacy now bears the burden of lies. Enough is enough. Prince Harry's spokesperson could not have been clearer. The Duke of Sussex has never said anything remotely resembling what is being claimed. Tina Brown knows exactly what she is doing by inventing these words and attributing them to a highly respected woman who is deceased and unable to correct the record. Those words are not just a defense, they are a moral line drawn in the sand. They make it explicit that this is not an accidental misstep, it is a deliberate, conscious act. What Tina Brown did is worse than a misquote. It is a manipulation. It is taking the credibility of someone who is no longer here and using it as a shield to give life to a narrative that simply does not exist. It is one thing to criticize, to analyze, or even to interpret actions. But it is another entirely to invent quotes, to invent intentions, and to cloak them in the authority of the deceased. This is not journalism, it is fabrication, and it is an abuse of trust. Harry and Meghan have endured years of relentless scrutiny, endless cycles of rumours, and a persistent pattern of being portrayed in ways that are inaccurate and misleading. They have been patient, measured, and deliberate in their responses, often choosing to rise above the noise and focus on their family and their work. But there comes a point when patience is no longer enough. When lies are repeated and amplified, when history is twisted in real time, it becomes necessary to speak clearly and firmly. That moment is now. The calculated nature of Tina Brown's actions cannot be overstated. To knowingly attribute invented words to a deceased, highly respected woman is to weaponize both her memory and Prince Harry's reputation. It is to suggest authority where there is none. It is to manufacture controversy from thin air. And it is to rely on the assumption that audiences will be so impressed by the prestige of the names involved that they will not question the truth. The response from Harry's team cuts straight to the heart of the matter. It does not mince words. It does not hedge. It does not allow the lie to exist in a grey area. It says, in the clearest terms possible, that the claims are false, that the attribution is unethical, and that the inventiveness of the statement was intentional. This is not about politeness. It is about accountability. It is also a moment to consider the broader implications of such actions. What happens when the words of the deceased are misused? What happens when respect is exploited for the sake of drama? What happens when influence is wielded irresponsibly? The answer is that public discourse is eroded, trust is undermined, and individuals like Prince Harry and Meghan, who have already been subjected to persistent misinformation campaigns, are forced yet again to defend not only themselves, but the integrity of history itself. Harry and Meghan are not simply asking for fairness, they are demanding honesty. They are insisting that the media, commentators, and those who hold influence operate with integrity. They are asserting that there is a line, a clear boundary, that must not be crossed. Do not invent quotes. Do not distort memory. Do not use the dead as props. And do not misrepresent the living. This moment also highlights a striking imbalance in accountability. When false statements are made about Prince Harry or Meghan, they are treated as subjects of speculation or as fair targets for public debate. But when they correct the record, when they clarify, when they push back against fabrication, it is often dismissed as defensiveness or aggression. That imbalance is unacceptable. That imbalance is precisely why this clear, unambiguous statement from their spokesperson is so necessary. It is worth reflecting on why Tina Brown, someone with access and authority in the media world, would make this choice. The answer is uncomfortable but obvious. Because controversy sells. Because fabricated narratives create clicks, headlines, and attention. Because the image of Prince Harry and Meghan, the couple who chose to step away from royal duties and assert their independence, is irresistible as a canvas on which to project invention. But the desire for drama does not excuse dishonesty. It does not justify ethical breaches. It does not erase the harm caused. The harm here is both immediate and lasting. Immediate, because a false story about Prince Harry has been placed in the public sphere, misleading audiences and reshaping perception. Lasting, because a deceased woman's legacy has been manipulated, her words twisted into something she never said. That harm cannot be undone by a casual correction. It is a reminder that the ethical responsibility of those with a platform is not optional, it is essential. Prince Harry and Meghan's response is a model of integrity under pressure. It is precise, it is measured, it is forceful without being vindictive. It refuses to let lies go unchallenged, while maintaining the dignity that has so often been denied to them by the very media outlets that now profit from their story. In standing up against Tina Brown's fabrication, they are defending more than themselves. They are defending the principle that words matter, that truth matters, and that ethical journalism cannot be optional. This incident should serve as a wake-up call to the public, to media organizations, and to anyone who benefits from sensationalism. There are limits to what is acceptable. Inventing words and attributing them to the deceased is beyond the pale. It is an ethical breach. It is a moral failure. And it is a line that cannot, should not, and will not be crossed without consequence. It is also a moment to recognize the courage of Harry and Meghan. To endure relentless scrutiny while maintaining composure requires strength. To continue to speak truth to power, to correct misinformation, and to defend personal dignity in the face of deliberate falsehoods requires resilience. And to do so consistently, while maintaining focus on their family, charitable work, and public initiatives, is nothing short of extraordinary. Tina Brown's action was not an isolated incident. It is part of a pattern in which Harry and Meghan have often been the subject of invention and exaggeration. But patterns do not make behavior acceptable. The repetitive nature of the distortions only underscores the necessity of standing firm. Repetition is no excuse for fabrication. It is a reason to confront it more clearly and more decisively. And that is exactly what has been done. By publicly calling out the fabrication, by clarifying that the words were never spoken, and by pointing out the deliberate misuse of a deceased woman's legacy, Prince Harry and Meghan have taken control of the narrative. Not in anger, not in revenge, but in defense of truth. Not as a fight for personal satisfaction, but as an assertion that certain standards must be upheld. In doing so, they remind the world that words are powerful, that legacy is precious, that ethical responsibility is not optional for those who hold influence, and that public figures, no matter how scrutinized, no matter how misrepresented, deserve the right to correct falsehoods with clarity and authority. This is why the spokesperson's statement is more than a response. It is a declaration. A declaration that there is a line that cannot be crossed, that falsehood cannot masquerade as insight, and that respect, both for the living and the deceased, is not negotiable. It is a reminder that integrity matters, that truth matters, and that those who choose to manipulate memory and invent words will be held accountable. Prince Harry and Meghan continue to show, in actions and in words, that they will not be passive participants in a system that profits from distortion. They are choosing to defend not just their own reputations, but the principles of honesty, accountability, and human dignity. And in doing so, they are teaching the world a valuable lesson. Integrity is not a convenience. It is a responsibility. Enough is enough. Enough of invention. Enough of misattribution. Enough of exploiting the dead for sensationalism. Enough of fabricating words to suit an agenda. Prince Harry and Meghan are standing firm, not just against one false claim, but against a culture that too often allows fabrication to masquerade as insight. And in standing firm, they remind us all that truth has a weight, and that it is worth defending. In this moment, the message is clear. Tina Brown may have attempted to create a story, but the story does not hold. Words cannot be invented without consequence. Legacies cannot be manipulated without accountability. And Prince Harry and Meghan will continue to defend both the truth and the dignity of those who cannot speak for themselves. This is not just a defense. This is a boundary. This is a stand. This is a declaration that truth matters, that ethics matter, and that respect, both for the living and the dead, is not negotiable. And it is a statement to the world. Prince Harry and Meghan will no longer allow lies to shape their story. Enough is enough.